California and Colorado, again Colorado emerges, however, appear to be beacons of correctness in this largely undifferentiated correct Western blob. It would seem that these two states are often more likely vacation destinations or more frequently featured as glamorous on news and entertainment programs than places like Idaho or New Mexico, perhaps increasing their salience and Memphians' familiarity with these regions. As Preston found in his work, the southern region was considered comparatively most incorrect, although Memphians did appear to make a number of intra-southern distinctions in the degree of this incorrectness. The states considered deep south received harsher evaluations than those in the mid-south, of which Memphis is a part. The two states which border Memphis and account for a great deal of Memphis's in-migration, Mississippi and Arkansas, are largely considered rural and less sophisticated by Memphians. In the ratings for correctness, these states were considered to be much less correct than Tennessee, suggesting that within region identity is also quite relevant in such ratings. All of the correctness ratings for the three major regions of the U.S. were significantly different from each other. That is, Memphians considered each region to be significantly different from each others on correctness scales. However, no regions were rated significantly different in terms of pleasantness. Such a finding, which elevates regional pleasantness despite regional incorrectness, is not surprising given similar findings in other studies, as was reported earlier, but does contradict Memphians' behavior when listening to actual speech samples of southern shifted vowel tokens. In terms of whether males or females or blacks or whites see greater differences among regions in terms of correctness and pleasantness, again, ethnicity played a larger role than gender in shaping participants' ratings. Though there were no significant differences between men and women in how they ranked each region. However, African Americans gave each region higher correctness scores than European Americans. These comparative differences in correctness were significant in the case of Northern and Western correctness, but while the trend of African Americans assigning higher scores was consistent, the Southern and Midwestern regions were not rated significantly more correct by blacks and whites. In addition, while African American raters viewed the Northern region as significantly more pleasant than European American raters, they rated the South as less pleasant than white did, although this difference was not significant. Interestingly, while the remaining regional pleasant ratings were not significantly different between blacks and whites, African Americans viewed the speech in each region except the South as more pleasant than European Americans viewed it. Such results become a bit more clear when the degree of different scores are considered. When asked how different the speech in each area was from their own, African Americans rated speech in the South significantly more different from their own than European Americans did. No other area showed significant differences between black and white raters in this category. Although, while not significant, white raters found speech in the North more distinct from their own by a very small margin than blacks did. Such results for pleasantness and degree of difference suggest that when taking such an overt evaluatory position on regional speech that brings up notions of standards and norms, African Americans may not use their own variety as a basis for comparison, but perhaps might use local white varieties as the basis. So in summary, Memphians are productively quite active in several of the shifts characterizing the South and the nation more generally. They are also quite adept at recognizing their own local speech and the shifts that regionally characterize them in contrast to that characterizing other regions or shifts active more widely across dialects. In addition, while they productively and perceptually show evidence and awareness of local shifts, they find these southern-based variants less correct and less pleasant than non-southern variants. Attitudinally, Memphians appear to buy into the stereotypes about the region, rating it comparatively and significantly more incorrect than other regions, although it is comparatively pleasant when no actual speech is heard. In terms of the ethnic group comparison, white and black speakers in Memphis showed a surprising similarity in terms of production, but less similar perceptions and attitudes. What is clear from these results is that in many ways, Southern speech is not just an ethnic marker, but also a cultural one. It seems a shared heritage creates strong cultural cohesion, a cohesion that requires little in the way of ethnic integration, but much in the way of regional identification. Overwhelmingly, it appears that when participants are asked to perform tasks that make relevant North and South distinctions instead of ethnic ones, there is evidence linguistically of the South united against a common enemy to the North despite its own internal divides. How linguistic choices shift to reflect intra-regional struggles when groups such as ethnicity become relevant would be very revealing as to how speakers navigate the complex multiple relationships in their communities.
Any questions? We have some time for a question or two. I have a question.
Okay.
Did you take into account social class?
We did match social class, but it wasn't part of our runs.
Okay. because I mean, I think that makes a huge difference when
The
you're talking
majority-
about Southerners'
right.
perceptions of their own speech.
The majority of, we do have that information on everybody, but we haven't run it yet as a statistic, but the majority of the people that we use for the production study were upper working class and lower middle class. And that would probably be pretty characteristic of the majority of our sample, which is one reason we haven't really run it, because we don't have a lot of distribution. It really sort of centers in that group. But we do have that information we need to get to. Terry?
In other work, you've reported that whereas you see the A lowering predominant in Memphian speech, you don't see the E lowering.
Not
When
at
you
all.
did the resynthesis, did you change both or just the A?
You know, we just changed the A because once you start expecting people to do a lot of stuff, they really do get tired and start to give you dirty looks and sometimes even start scribbling things on their paper. So we limited it to those things that seemed productively to be most active. So we didn't have time to do that because it was already pressing on them to do the accuracy, and then we did separate scores, accuracy, and then a separate test for education, separate for pleasantness for the same people to participate in all three of those so that we cross-compared the identical group. So no, we didn't do E-lowering. But we did do in the accuracy part. So they weren't accurate, but we did do for education and pleasantness. So that's how we chose those.
How about the uplining off, which you can't say? Did you manipulate?
No, we didn't do that. We didn't do low background merger at all, or any low background.
Okay, thanks.